this is the final movie for Access Chapter 2, the Prepare Putts assignment. So we're on step 20, and we're going to create a new table that's going to serve as a junction table. So when we define these relationships, we can have one-to-one. So that means one record points to one record in another table, and that record can only point back. So oftentimes that's when information, there's a lot of information, and so instead of having a really huge table, you divide it up, and so there's linked from one to the one. The more common is the one-to-many. One participant can order many things, right? On an order, you can have many line items. And then the third one is considered many-to-many. And in a many-to-many in Access, you cannot have a direct relationship. You need to have 3 tables in order to have a many-to-many relationship. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create this junction table that's going to pull to the participant and the corporation together, so we can look at it, we can go back and forth between them. So a corporate could relate to many participants, so we're going to look at that. So this is on page, let's see, 130 to 131. So we're going to create a new table to begin with. So when we do create table in design view. We're going to just start typing these in. So participant role ID, and that's an auto number. Corporate ID is a number. And then when we do a number, we have to come down here and validate whether it's, so once you decide whether it's text or number, so in this case it's a number, then you have to decide for a number, is it a whole number, an integer, or is it contain decimals? So the way that the data type is always number. How you see that number is defined down here in the field size. The default is long integer, but I'm going to just show you here. You could have single, double, and decimal. Those are different variations of a data type that the number includes decimals, and it's just the precision and the size of that number that you can have. We also have long integer and integer, and so in this case we're going to use the default, which is long integer. We're going to then do participant ID, and it's a number and it's a long integer. And so one of the things that you want to know is that an auto number by definition is a long integer number. So because these are auto numbers in another table, we need to match. So when you are connecting fields between tables, they don't have to have the same name. One could be called elephant and one could be called giraffe, but the data type has to be the same. So if they're number long integer, giraffe has to be number long integer. If it's, text 50, then this has to be short text 50. So they have to match in the data type, but they don't have to match in the name. So this is a short text of 40. Okay. So we have these in. So we're going to set the participant role ID as the primary key. So I highlight it here in the box, click on primary key. Enter a description of primary key for TBL participant roles. Save the table as TBL participant roles with an S. Okay, so we are done with step 20. So that's just setting up this junction table. So now what we need to do, we're going to close that. You can't work on relationships when those tables are open. So you always want to make sure your tables are closed. And then we're going to do database tools, relationships. we need to add a table, and we need to add corporate and participant role. So I'm going to just double click on table corporate and table participant role. And then I'm just going to kind of squish them around. So on this step 21, we're going to, this is on page 131. So now we have these, and let's start thinking about what we've got here, right? So create a relationship between table participant and participant roles. So here's my table participant. I'm going to pull my role up here. And now I have to look at what piece of information is repeated. Well, it's this participant ID. So I'm going to click, because here's the primary key, drag and drop it. We're going to enforce referential integrity. We're going to validate we got the right things. It's a one-to-many. Create. Then, table participant. Okay, so we're done with 21. Then we have to do, and this is also on page 131. Oops. We're going to create a relationship between corporate and participant roles. So I'm going to open this up a little bit more. So I'm going to pull this over here so I can see. It doesn't have to be next to it, but I just don't want lines flying. So now between these two, I need to decide what is the link, right? So look, corporate ID in this is the primary key. And hey, it's repeated here. So I can do this, enforce referential integrity. So this in effect becomes a many-to-many relationship between the participant and the corporation, right? This corporate ID. It's because here, look, one-to-many, one-to-many. I'm going to go ahead and save this and close it. Then I want to create a relationship report so that we can see what it is. So to create the relationship report, we're in Database Tools, and then I need to pull that back up. Sorry, I closed it prematurely. Back in Relationships, right here is the relationship report. It's going to put the relationships in there. It doesn't tell me to change it to landscape. So you know what? I'm not seeing everything, so I'm going to close out of that. No, and I'm going to just bring these down and try and run the report again and see if, there we go, we can see it all. So now we're going to close Print Preview, and we're going to save this as relationships for Y019 access chapter 2 prepare PUTs. Okay, now I can close, save, close. Okay. So now what we want to do is populate this participant role. So corporate ID is 1, participant is 5, and the role is corporate contact. Corporate 1, participant 1 is a golfer. Corporate 1, participant 27 is a golfer, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and type them in and close that. So I want to show you guys something here. So now if we look at participants, and I look at the participant role, I can look at he is a golfer, right? So they're connected, right? There's a relationship. All right, let's look at 25. Use the report wizard to create a report. So create report wizard. So we're going to pick participants first, and we're going to do last name, first name from participant. Then, and we can do this because there's a relationship, and then we want order ID and amount paid from table order. So I come up here and I switch to table order, and I'm going to do amount paid, and oops, bring that back. It's order ID and amount paid. Next, no grouping. Do not apply any groupings. Sort by order ID. Nope, wrong thing. Let me go back here. How do you want to view your data? Sorry, let me go back here. We're viewing it. I think that's how we're viewing it. So then, no grouping, sorted by order ID. Next. And we're going to save this as RPT participants orders. Finish. So here's what we have. We have, for each participant, we have orders that they placed. So let's close. We are now in design view, so we want to switch to layout view, and we're going to change this to participants and orders. And then I don't like the report, but they don't have us doing any changes on it, so we're going to go ahead and do OK. And we're going to close out of that. So if we run that again, for each person, we would see their order and how much was paid. So if they had multiple orders, you would see multiple lines here. Okay. Okay, and I forgot to tell you the page numbers for these. So this is page 135, and then this is 136. And so the whole key for that report was we picked and pulled the information from two tables. And the reason we could do that is because they're linked. If we go back here and look at these relationships, the lines allow us to move. See, we could actually get from here and follow this path and get all the way back, right? Because there's a link all the way through it. And that's what a relationship does for you. All right, so we are done with this. So I'm going to actually close out. I'm going to close, and I can now submit this into my IT lab and get a grade. All right, guys, I'm done. Thank you.